Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a story time on the time my youngest daughter Lennox caught RSV and ended up on life support. Um, I actually wanted to give you guys this video a long time ago, probably immediately after we gave the Down syndrome diagnosis video, but it was just, I was still way too emotional about what had happened, what was going on, and the fact that she was still battling some issues and side effects from some of her medication and her diagnosis and treatment. It was a lot going on. Let me just say that, because I probably can't even word what I'm trying to say properly. So I'm gonna hop right into the story time. It all started around December 15th of 2015. um Lennox was almost 11 months old. She would have been turning 11 months old on December 29th. So, yeah, she was so small. My baby was tiny, you guys. She was still wearing 3 to 6 month clothes. She was about 10 or 11 pounds at the time, which is tiny. Like, she was so small to be approaching a year old. Well, I was a working mom at the time. I was working a part time job to try to help cover some of the medical expenses, some, just costs that it takes, things that it takes to take care of a child. I was just trying to work and do that. And I have 3 older children that are in school. So around the 15th of December, like I said, I noticed that Lennox had came down with a little cold. So I thought um, she had regular symptoms. She was coughing. Her nose was running. She hadn't developed a fever yet. Let's say around December 18th, maybe 3 days later, it was still going on. I had called her pediatrician, like, hey, Lennox has a cold, and I want to know if I can bring her in so you guys could see her. And the pediatrician agreed. He saw her, and he said, everything looks good. It's just a cold. I can't tell you to give her any cold medication because she's too young. She's too small. We don't um, give infants cold medication. Only thing we could tell you, if she develops a fever, give her a little bit of infant's Tylenol. Make sure she's comfortable. So we did exactly what the doctor said. We did just that. We made sure that the house was warm. I wouldn't bathe her at night. I would give her a bath like in the middle of the day when it was warmer, since it was winter time. I know nights get colder, so I would bathe her in the morning, like in the middle of the day, and dress her in appropriate clothing and stuff. And around the 19th, that's when Lennox started coughing like really bad. And I noticed that her cheeks had gotten dark and she had like some scaly patches on her cheeks. And I remember making a post on Facebook asking for suggestions from other moms or what I could do to clear up this, these dry patches on her cheeks. I thought it was just winter dry cheeks because 2 of my other children, their cheeks does that in the winter, and it's due to like mild eczema. I knew I was already washing everything in baby wash, so it wasn't the washing powder. I hadn't changed any of my normal routine. So a lot of moms gave me a lot of great advice. They were like, use, breast milk or Aquaphor, Vaseline, coconut oil, all these things. I tried them all. It wasn't working. But little did I know that that one symptom was directly linked to, lung disease or trouble breathing. I had no clue. I had no idea. Like, no idea. So let's say on the 20th of December, the next day after I made that post, I noticed that her fever was popping up more frequently, and I didn't want to overly give her the infant's Tylenol, and I was giving it to her. Her fever was breaking, but not all the way down. It was just take it down to like a low grade fever, and she was still coughing. So I went to work on the 20th. On the 21st, I was waking up to go to work. I had fed Lennox. And I had fed Lennox. And I noticed she started vomiting after just about every feeding, which was not normal for her. She didn't have acid reflux or anything. She We did already know that she had the 3 holes in her heart, so her breathing was already like, we saw the restriction in her breathing. We saw the chest collapsing and stuff as she would breathe. I don't even know how to describe what it is, but I'll see if I can find a video or a picture of what I'm talking about, how you could see that she was struggling to breathe in her chest. Um, she was doing that a lot more, and it was it kind of scared me. So I took her into no, I took her back to the pediatrician on the 20th. When we got there, they said that they could not see her because it was already 4 o'clock, and that was the last appointment of the day. And so we drove back home. When we woke up on the morning of the 21st, that's when I noticed, like, okay, she had vomited 3 times after coughing. Like, she would cough so hard to where she would vomit. Her fever was still there. She was like extremely whiny, like crying, and I'm like, what in the world is wrong? She was like so uncomfortable. I'm talking about, I would put her in the car seat. She was just screaming and crying. I was like, you know what? I'm taking my baby to the urgent care. Somebody's got to tell me what's going on, because at this point it had been going on for almost a week. And every day it was a new symptom. It was something different. Her nose was still running like crazy, and it was like clear to white drainage from her nose. Took her to the urgent care, like I said, me and her dad. We got there, they checked her out. I remember they were taking her blood oxygen levels with the little thing that stick on your finger or your toe. And the nurse was like, this machine must be broken. It's not working again because there's no way this reading is correct. She didn't even tell me the number that she got. She just left out of the room, checked her blood pressure and everything. She was like, well, her blood pressure looks fine. And at that time, my baby had fell asleep in my arms. She was sleeping on me. She wasn't fussing or anything. So then the doctor came in, and I told her everything that was going on from the day it started up until what made me bring her in to the urgent care. She listened to her chest, and she was like, I think we need to get x-rays just to make sure, it's not anything funky going on. So she did a chest x-ray, brought us back in the room, and said, I think Lennox has pneumonia. We definitely see some patterns in her right lung that looks like pneumonia. So what I want you to do is go ahead, take her to the emergency room, which we lived in a small town, and the nearest like decent hospital was like an hour away. Mind you, I have my 3 other children at home, and we have to shoot her to the hospital. So I had to find somebody to watch the other kids while I took her, which that took about 45 minutes, and then we went on, took her to the hospital. On our way to the emergency room, I remember like getting maybe 10 minutes away from the hospital and looking down at my baby, and she was just staring at me. Like, the look in her eyes was so scary, you guys. It really shook me. I was like, what in the world? It was like, she wasn't crying. She just looked afraid. She wasn't blinking. And it was like, okay, the whole ride there, she cried. She was uncomfortable to the point I never ride with my baby not being in her car seat. I got her out of the car seat and held her the entire time to the going to the hospital, because she was crying so bad. I could tell she was super uncomfortable. She was like crying and could barely catch her breath. Like, I was like, calm down. It's okay. I'm talking to her. I'm rocking her. I'm like rubbing her head, just making sure that she's comfortable. And nothing was soothing her. To where once she got quiet and I thought she fell asleep and looked down, and then she's just staring at me, like the blank stare in her eyes. It was just like the guy face on Get Out. Not making a joke of it or anything, mockery of it, but that's what it looked like. She was so afraid, and It scared me. I told her dad, I said, you better run every single light, put on your hazard lights and shoot. We got to get her there because it's not looking good. Like she didn't. I just knew. I had a feeling that it wasn't right. Something wasn't right. So we got to the emergency room. It was packed. It's like flu season, RSV. It's all these people here, and I'm like, hey, I just took my baby to the urgent care, an hour away, and they asked me to bring her here. They thought she had pneumonia, and I don't like what I'm seeing in my baby. The lady took one look at her, and she was like, okay. She walked to the back. They had just called somebody back to the triage, and we waited like 4 minutes, and then they called her back in. And while we were in triage, I was giving her the rundown of everything. I had handed her the paper that they gave me to give them at the ER with the x-ray findings and everything. And she went to do the temperature, and she still had a low-grade fever, even though they had given her Tylenol at the urgent care also. And they took her blood oxygen level there, and the nurse was like, She said, did they take her oxygen level at the urgent care? And I told the lady, I was like, yeah, they did, but they didn't tell me what it was because they said their machine must have been broken because the reading was so low. And she was like, oh no, their machine was not broke because we know ours worked. And her oxygen level right now is at 32, and it's supposed to be at 100. So she called for another nurse to come in. She was like, I need you to, she gave all these codes. Like, she wasn't saying it to scare us. It was like a way where it was calm, but hurry up and get this baby to the back. So it took them about a minute or less to get a room ready for her. We walked her to the back to the room. We followed the nurse to the room, and we got in there. They started immediately. It was like not just one or two little ER nurses. There was a whole team of people already coming to meet us in the room. Um, that's when the doctor came in. He was asking what happened, but he's not just focusing on what we're saying. Everybody is focusing on her. They were like cutting her clothes off. They had these tubes ready. It was really scary and really fast. I really didn't even have time to be scared or afraid or nervous or anything. Only thing I could think of was tell them everything, Tanasia. Tell them everything that happened. This is definitely serious. So I got into serious mommy mode, whatever, let's do whatever. I don't know what's going on, just find out what's happening. So by the time they did all that, they checked her blood oxygen level. Then I think they put the thing on her toe, not her finger, in there. But she wasn't moving. She wasn't crying. She wasn't fighting against them or anything. And they were just saying her sats are dropping. Her sats are dropping. At this point, I look up at the machine. It's 23. And I'm still talking to the doctor, explaining everything. I said, I'm keeping in mind that this lady just told me her sats are supposed to be at 100. They were just at 32. Now they're at 23. And the doctor is saying her sats are dropping. They're cutting her clothes off. Next thing you know, we were asked to leave the room. I remember looking back at the machine and seeing that my baby's blood oxygen level was at 19. And I said I wasn't going to get emotional. It was so scary. It was really scary. And her dad and I were asked to go to a waiting room in the back. We didn't have to go back out front with the people that were waiting to be seen. It was like a separate area. It was so quiet. I remember it was like creepy kind of because it was just us. And we're watching all these nurses run and race to our daughter's room. We don't know what's going on. So they asked us to wait out there. I remember her dad's cousin came with us to the emergency room. He met us back there in the little area, and he's asking us what's going on. We don't know. They asked us to leave the room. They were cutting her clothes. The only thing I could tell them was that, only thing I know is her sats were dropping. Her sats were at 19, and they were supposed to be at 100. I don't know what happened, And it probably took them about 5 minutes to stabilize her. But to me, at living in the moment, like right when it happened, it seemed like 3 hours, but it was probably like 5 minutes. And I just remember her dad being so upset. He was so upset. He loves her so much. And I was just trying to keep him calm. Even though I was upset myself, I was scared myself, but I really wanted to keep him calm because he was upset. He wanted to know what was going on, what was happening. But the doctors, there was nothing they could tell us at that time. They didn't know. So a nurse came back to us and she was like, "You guys come on back. We got, Lennox stable. The doctor wants to talk to you guys." So we walk him back to her room. We got to her door and her dad asked first. He was like, "Is everything okay? Is my baby okay?" And the male doctor looked up at us and he said, "Well, no, but we have her stable. She's stabilized." And her dad said, "Well, what's going on?" And we just heard the doctor say, "Right now, the diagnosis that we have, which is not a full diagnosis, but in the ER room, we are able to diagnose her with heart failure. We're running tests to see what else is going on." And right when he was explaining that and what tests they were running, we saw her. They had already intubated her, so they had the breathing tube down her throat already. It like was forcefully projected. I don't know what happened, but it flew out of her mouth. The machine started going off. Her oxygen was dropping again. And when I looked at the machine when I came in the room, with the tube in, she was still at only like 27. And they asked us to leave the room again. This time, her dad was freaking out. He was like punching the walls. He was like, "What the is going on? Somebody tell what's going on, my baby." So they asked us um, to walk to the back, and her dad was like, "No, I'm not leaving." So they called security and everything. It was like this big commotion. So I get him to calm down just a little bit so we can go back to the waiting room and to the waiting area because it wasn't a room, and where his cousin was waiting for us. And he's like, "What's going on? Like, what happened?" He's looking like, "The heck did I miss?" And the only thing I can say was the doctor just told us that she's in heart failure. And when those words came out of my mouth, it was like both of our knees just buckled. Her dad like fell to the floor crying. I just held him and we both just cried in the middle of the floor. Like we cried. And I remember his cousin just putting his hand over his head. He was just like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And there was nothing for him to be sorry about. Nothing he did, but he didn't know what to do. We didn't know, we wasn't prepared for this. We thought we were just taking her there for, a simple case of mild pneumonia and everything was going to be fine. But they sent a chaplain over to talk to us. And the chaplain was trying to walk us back to his office area thing. And I just remember shaking my head and saying, "I'm not going. I don't want to talk to a chaplain." When you talk to a chaplain, most of the time things are not looking good. I don't want to talk to a chaplain. My baby is going to be okay. And her dad just said it out loud. He was like, "I'm not talking to no effing chaplain. I want to see my baby." He refused to go back to the office. I went back to the office with security and the chaplain, and they were just talking to me. I don't remember not one word that came out of their mouths, to be honest. Only thing I can think of is what is going on with my baby. Her dad stayed in the hallway. He wasn't like trying to get into the room or anything. He stayed in the hallway, like near her room, and he just refused to move. And about 20 minutes later, they came. They said, "We got her stabilized again. You guys could come on back." So I'm looking for her dad. Like, where did he go? Where did he go? But he was right there. Um, so by the time I get to the room, he's already waiting at the door for me. And that's when they let me know. We are waiting for a bed to open up in ICU for her. She's going to have to be here. Your baby is very, very sick. We don't know exactly what's going on, but we're waiting for the test to come back. We took a flu test, RSV. They did some other type. They did a urinalysis to see if it was maybe a UTI. It was like a whole bunch of tests that they took already before we came back in, and they were just waiting for that to come while they were waiting for a bed to open. It didn't take very long for them to make a bed available for her on the NICU floor. Once they got the room available, they rolled her up. We went up also. The doctors were waiting to talk to us. They're the pediatric nurses, and that's when they were asking the same questions. I was giving them the same room that everything that had happened, and the pediatric doctor came in and he said, "Yes, your daughter is in heart failure. She's very, very sick." And that's what he told us. He was like, her labs just came back that she has RSV. And he also told us that she had appeared to be severely dehydrated. And I told him, I don't doubt that she is dehydrated because she's been vomiting for 2 days. And I told him the pediatrician wouldn't see her. We tried to take her the day before, and it was too late. And he said that he would do his best to make sure that Lennox was going to be okay. And I remember him telling me that you guys have nothing to worry about. We have a great pediatric team here. If I'm not looking worried, you guys shouldn't be worried. We are well equipped for these type of things. We can handle it. So they said, what we're going to do, we're going to need to give her an IV line. Let's start some fluids. Let's start her on this oxygen. Let's see if we can get her sat levels up. That's the main thing. We want to make sure that she's getting oxygen. So they asked us to leave the room for a little while. And it seemed like forever. At this time, my phone is blowing up because, mind you, I had already made a post on Facebook earlier when we were taking her to the urgent care, letting them know that, Lennox is sick, and I'm taking her to the urgent care to see what was going on with her. I just made a post to all my family and friends. And so many people were asking, sending up prayers and asking, was everything okay? And I called my sister and let her know, what was going on. I was crying. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but only thing I could tell her is what the doctors told us. And then I called my friend and I was explaining to her, what had happened, what was happening and stuff. Because my friend, she's a great woman. She prayed with me. She prayed for me. She told me to call her anytime. It didn't matter what time of night it was. When we found something out, let her know. And by this time, it's like an hour and a half had gone by. We slept. I fell asleep on the bench, in the hallway, just waiting right by her door. Hour and a half later, the doctor comes and opens the door, and they let us in. And that's when things got really scary. Because, mind you, remember I told you guys that the doctor had told us, if you don't see me looking worried, I don't want you to worry. We're well equipped for this type of thing. When we came in, the doctor was sitting on the arm of the little sofa that was in her room. And he was like, you guys, I'm not going to lie. Your baby is really, really sick. We're not equipped to handle this here. And I'm like, you just told us not to worry. He had 2 nurses in the room with him. My baby was laying on the bed, appearing to be lifeless. I noticed that her complexion was darker, and it scared the shit out of me. I looked at her. Tears started flowing down my eyes. Her dad looked at her and immediately started vomiting in the trash can. We thought we lost her. The doctor told us that they tried to do an IV. They poked her over 30 times and was unable to get a vein good enough to start an IV line. He also told us that all those times that they poked her, they barely got any blood out. Her vessels had collapsed. The oxygen was not working for her. He told us that there was a machine that they could put her on, and it was it would vibrate and shake really hard and stuff for us not to be afraid, but that was like the last result. Like that was the only other thing he can think of to help her in that moment. And that the RSV had gotten to her lungs, and she was basically in lung failure and heart failure. They diagnosed her with pulmonary hypertension, which is high blood pressure of the lungs on top of heart failure. And that they told us that she would have to be airlifted to another hospital, which was about 2.5 to 3 hours away. But at the time now, it's the middle of the night. It's extremely foggy and cold outside. So the helicopters don't fly when it's foggy like that. So he said, we can't fly her tonight, but first thing in the morning, as long as some of this fog clears up, she will be airlifted to the Medical University of South Carolina. And he told us they're well equipped with, everything they would need to help her. They have it there. And I was pretty familiar with the hospital already because if you don't know, my oldest son, he's not my oldest child, but my oldest son was born with kidney disease. So he spent a lot of time there at the NICU in the pediatric unit there. So I was familiar with the hospital. And I was certain that they would be able to help my baby. But just looking at her laying on that bed, I'll try to insert pictures because I did take pictures. It was scary. It broke my heart to see my baby laying there, lifeless. I tried my best to just stay calm and hear the doctors out and try to remember everything they was telling me so that I can Google it and research it myself to see what they were talking about. I had never heard of pulmonary hypertension outside of, like I said, my friend that prayed for me and prayed with me. Her son was born with pulmonary hypertension, and around that same time was his anniversary that he had passed from pulmonary hypertension. So I was scared. I did not accept the fact that she was that bad off. I just had hopes that she's going to be okay. I called my friend back and I let her know that, hey, they diagnosed her with pulmonary hypertension. She didn't even doubt for 1 minute that Lennox was going to be okay. She knew. She reassured me that, Tanasia, everything is going to be fine. She just jumped right into big sister mode. That's what she was. She was definitely an angel and a savior to me at that time. She kept me so calm. She said, ask about this. Can you look at the machine? Can you tell me what her oxygen level is at? Can you tell me this? Okay, this means this. She let me know that, okay, things are bad, but she's fighting. She let me know there is some medication that they have been studying for this. Can you see if the doctor will be willing to start? Can you see if there's any type of other infection? She gave me a whole rundown of questions to ask. She kept my head straight, you guys. I will forever cherish our friendship, no matter how close or far we are, no matter how often or not often we speak. She will definitely always hold a special place in my heart, and I love, love, love her for that. Her name is Patrice Ridges. I don't even know if she wanted to be put out there like that, but I just got to let it be known that I love her. I love, love, love her. And that while I was pregnant and talking to her, and I let her know, sometimes God takes you through things so that you can be a blessing to somebody else and all of this. And little did I know, a year later, that same conversation that we had in her living room about her son will be the very conversation that we'll be having about my daughter, and that she would be a blessing to me in that time. I had no idea, and it just reassured me that God works in mysterious ways. Because I had known Patrice for years. Our daughters were in the same class from like pre-K. And we would always see each other in passing and speak. And for some reason, once I got pregnant, me and her just got really close. Like I said, I had been to her house. I didn't even know she had a son, an older son that had passed, until I went to her house and saw his plaque on the wall. And she told me the story. I had never heard of pulmonary hypertension before in my life. Never. And it's so rare. It's such a rare medical condition. And to have her son pass from it, and then my daughter to go through it, and for her to be my friend, the one that's helping me. And she was so strong. She was so strong. I don't know what, she might have gone through off the phone with me, but on the phone, she was so strong. And I love her. I love her. I love her. Um, Believing in God is a beautiful thing. If you don't believe in God, the universe, whatever have you, just know that everything happens for a reason. Anyway, back to my story. So the next day came. Um, they were able to fly Lennox up to the other hospital, and we drove down to meet her there. And I remember just trying to sleep that night was terrible. It was horrible. Like, I couldn't sleep. I remember not even being able to fall asleep until the sun came up, and it was just like my mind was still racing. I remember telling myself, tonight, you gotta calm down. You're gonna get yourself sick. You have to be strong for your baby. And I did that. I was strong for my baby, as strong as I could be. And then on our way there to the hospital, I remember getting like 30 minutes away, and we had to stop at a rest area so her dad could use the bathroom. And I, like, right before we got to the rest area, I couldn't hold it anymore. I just vomited everywhere. My nerves were tore up. I vomited all in my lap. My clothes was messed up. We had to, like, pull over on the ramp and try to toss some of the vomit out my lap outside of the car and change my clothes right there at the rest area outside. Like, I was a mess. I was a mess. I didn't worry about doing my hair that day and nothing. When they called and let us know that the room was available for her at the other hospital, we got on the road. I didn't care. I brushed my teeth, washed my face. That was about it. That was it. We left. Um, we got to the hospital, and that was when the doctors let us know that, okay, we do have diagnosis for her. She's in heart failure. She has pulmonary hypertension, and her lungs are not looking great right now. She has RSV, which in adults just looks like a regular cold, or even bigger children, it just looks like a regular cold. But to infants, it's deadly. It can be deadly. It's really severe for infants. And that's why, when my son was in the NICU, I didn't understand why, like, oh, he can only have one or two visitors. It's RSV season. I was just like, well, if we coming in and washing our hands and sanitizing and doing all of this, like, what's the problem? Like, but now I understand the severity of RSV, and I will not ever in my life take it as a small thing. Every year around flu RSV season, I get like super OCD. I make sure the children are washing their hands like a million times a day. We keep hand sanitizer. We keep Clorox wipes, Lysol wipes, all this stuff. Um, Even though we don't have any small children anymore, but because Lennox has that history of heart surgery and pulmonary hypertension, I can't risk it. So if you have a small child, please keep your baby protected. Please do not take your child's life for granted. Please do whatever it takes. I don't care what people say about you. Oh, she won't let us come see her baby, or she won't let us hold or touch the baby. She's acting bougie. None of that matters. Keep your kids safe. Keep your kids protected. So they gave us all this information about all of this stuff. I'm researching everything. I'm looking everything up, and it was scaring me even more because the outlook for a baby in her situation with the holes in her heart. She hadn't had her heart surgery yet. Um, to get pulmonary hypertension and RSV, it wasn't looking good. The doctors did let us know, hey, we're fighting for her. She's fighting. She's a fighter. Like at this point, she was in a coma, a medically induced in coma because she just would not let her body rest and heal. She wanted to be so active. She wanted to get up. She was like on the machine with it would show like her sats, her heart rate and all that stuff. It would show little purple marks where she was trying to initiate breathing. The doctors didn't want her to, start breathing on her own just yet because her heart and lungs weren't strong enough. They wanted her body to rest and heal before, they tried to wean her off oxygen and stuff. But she was fighting, guys. My baby is a fighter. She was trying. She was pulling through. She was so strong. She made me strong in that sense. Like they was like, we keep having to give her sedation medication because she keeps wanting to wake up. She keeps wanting to do this and she's moving. And I was like, you know what? My baby is a fighter. She fought in the womb. She fought here. She's fighting now. She's going to continue to fight. And she helped us get through that situation. And you guys, I just keep pausing because I'm going back to the feelings, the emotions. Like I said, I don't talk about this much because it's such a emotional subject and a story for me to tell. I don't like to be emotional. I'm strong. But my baby fought through. It was a long healing process. I think she stayed in the ICU for about 6 weeks. We brought New Year's Day in there with her in the hospital. I remember driving up to North Carolina to get her siblings and driving them back there so they can be with her for New Year's because they missed Christmas with her. We didn't get to spend Christmas with our other children because Lennox was in the ICU, which was about 4 hours away from my other children. So we were able to stay at the Ronald McDonald House of Charleston. And those people are amazing people there. They made sure we had everything we needed. They made sure we were fine. We were within close proximity to the hospital where we could just walk. I didn't have money at the time. Like I said, I was working part-time just to make ends meet. And by her being in the hospital, I was out of work. I had just gotten this brand new truck because I needed something with third row seats because I have 4 children. So now I have a car payment, car insurance, phone bill. I had bills piling up, and on top of that, it was Christmas time. I had 4 children. So mentally, I was exhausted. Emotionally, at that time, I was exhausted. I couldn't even update people on what was going on. Like her dad would go on Facebook and go live and stuff during that time. I couldn't do it. If I took a picture while visiting her, I would post it. I would try to keep updates, but I know they weren't as often as some people were looking for. Like they would be, is everything okay today? How's she doing today? I really appreciate those people that reached out to us during that time. I've gained so many friends in that time, and these are people that still call and check on us 4 years later. And I love you guys, everyone. All of you who were my friends already, who became my friend in that time. I definitely consider you guys to be my friends. And I appreciate you all. I appreciate my family that held us down. My aunt, my cousin, my sisters, my brother. Jeez. You guys, If I went, I'm going to go into detail. I know this video is already long as crap, but I'm really going to go into detail and let you guys know what I was going through. Because my purpose of putting this video out to you guys is so that this video can be a blessing to someone. This video can help somebody out in their time of going through. And this video could possibly save someone's child's life. This video could possibly save somebody's life. Because, you guys, when I tell you, I was struggling. I was struggling. I barely had a place to stay. There was so much going on within my family, surrounding the house I was living in, my grandmother's house, where, you know, I can't put fault on anybody. We were struggling to keep up with the house. We didn't have the help or support from family members. So we didn't even know, like at that time, when we are able to bring her home from the hospital, where are we taking her to? We don't have a place. I didn't have my own place. I was staying with my grandmother, who at the time had gotten ill herself. She had a stroke. And I don't even know. I can't say for sure if I know that she ended up in the nursing home at that point. But if she was not in the nursing home, shortly after Lennox being born, she ended up in the nursing home. Because I remember Lennox being really small and waking up mornings. I chose to do the morning shift to feed my grandmother at the nursing home because the nursing home wasn't making sure that she was eating. So I would be at the nursing home like quite early in the morning to feed her and feed Lennox at the same time. Man, God is good. Like, I came a long way. We came a long way, and I'm so thankful and so grateful and so happy. Man, my car ended up getting repoed. I don't know how this video is how I ended up talking about this when we're talking about that, but this was the outcome of it. I felt like I had lost so much, but it didn't mean anything to me losing my home, losing my car, any of that. I didn't care. My baby didn't lose her life. She fought through. She made it. She ended up on oxygen for a while. She had to go through heart surgery. But she came out of it. And that's all that mattered to me. And everything I lost was restored to me. I moved away from South Carolina and moved. It's only one state. I'm not going to make it seem like I moved away to this luxurious life and somewhere else. I moved to North Carolina. I was able to stay with family for a little while until me and Lennox's dad were able to afford a place on our own. We really couldn't afford it, but we did it. We got our own place. We got another place. We got a car, a new truck. It wasn't brand new, but we got a different truck. A nicer one. You know, I don't know how I kept it together in that time. Lennox's medication alone was tremendously expensive. It cost $6,000 a month for this treatment they were giving her for pulmonary hypertension. And her Medicaid would not cover the full cost of it, so we were coming out of pocket 10% of the $6,000. And the only pharmacy that I can find it at a cheaper rate was a pharmacy based out of Florida. So her medication had to be shipped to us, but it saved me about $300 a month. And I don't know how we did it. I didn't have a job. I lost my job. Her dad didn't have a job at the time when she came home from the hospital. But we made it through. We survived. We're okay. Lennox is doing great. The medication that they put her on worked. Like, when we go to the cardiologist now for our annual appointments, they let us know every single time. This child doesn't even show signs that she has pulmonary hypertension. Her lungs are looking great. Like, she's just as active as any other kid. Her heart is looking good. We've been able to upgrade and graduate from going to the cardiologist twice a year to only once a year now. And I am so proud of her. She's a fighter. I'm a fighter. We're strong. She's strong. She made me strong. And if you know anybody that's going through anything like this or any type of hard time, be there for them. Be there for them, because I promise you guys, I was probably just about to my breaking point. I felt like I had nobody, even though I know I did, but I just felt alone. But I'm in a better place now. And like I said, the purpose of me putting this video out there was to be a blessing to someone, to possibly save someone's child's life, to possibly save someone's life, period, anybody, to help a parent that may be going through this, and to make sure to reiterate to you guys to keep your children safe, keep your babies safe, to be a voice for your baby. Do not give up on your child. Do not let doctors tell you any and everything, to research everything, to make sure that you are paying good and close attention to yourself and your children, to know the difference when they're going through something medically. And to always surround yourself with people that love you, care about you, and are there for you. I'm not going to prolong this video anymore because it's like extremely long already, and I'm burnt out. I am burnt out from creating this video, but it's here, and I thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. Thank you guys for all the wonderful comments you guys left on the Down syndrome diagnosis video. I love you guys. If you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe to my channel. Turn on the post notification by hitting that little bell button down below, and I greatly appreciate you guys. Please stay tuned for many, many, many more videos to come.